Hello friends, we have introduced a new series on brief history of modern India, and the first chapter that we are going to deal is with chapter 1, Sources for the History of Modern India. So what are archives? Archives refer to a collection of historical records and documents, usually primary source documents, that is, those documents that have been created as a necessary part of some activity, especially for administrative, legal, social, or commercial. The records of the East India Company provide a detailed account of trading conditions during the period of 1600 to 1857. These records help historians to trace every important development stage by stage and follow the processes of decision making and the psychology of the policy makers. Other works include memoirs, biographies, travel accounts, which gives us an idea about 18th and early 19th centuries. Newspapers and journals made their appearance in the later part of the 18th century. Other sources of modern Indian history include oral evidence, creative literature, and paintings. Archival materials. There are four categories of official records: central government archives, state government archives, records of intermediate and subordinate authorities, and judicial records. Apart from these, there are private archives and archival sources available abroad. Central Government Archives. The National Archives of India, located in New Delhi, contains most of the archives of the Government of India. This happened as the work of the East India Company was distributed among various branches like public or general, revenue, political, military, secret, commercial, judicial, education, etc. With the appointment of James Runnel as the first Surveyor General of Bengal in 1767, the Survey of India began to scientifically map the unknown regions of the country and its bordering lands. State Government Archives. The source material in the state archives comprise the records of the former British Indian provinces, the Eastward Princely States, which were incorporated in the Indian Union after 1947, and the four administrations other than those of the British. For studying the history of the princely states of Rajasthan, that is Jaipur, Bikaner, Jodhpur, Udaipur, etc., the archives of these states, now housed in the Rajasthan State Archives at Bikaner, are valuable. Similarly, the history of Dogra rule from 1846 in Jammu and Kashmir can be studied in the valuable collection of state papers housed at Jammu. The other significant archives of the princely states are those of Gwalior, Indore, Bhopal, Rewa, all in Madhya Pradesh, Travancore and Cochin in Kerala, Mysore in Karnataka, and Kolhapur in Maharashtra. Archives of three presidencies. The archives of Bengal Presidency after the British victory at Plassey have survived more or less in a complete series, which are partly available in the National Archives of India and partly in the State Archives of West Bengal. The archives of Bombay Presidency, housed in the Maharashtra Secretariat Record Office, Mumbai, are extremely useful in studying the history of Western India, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Sindh, and the Kannada speaking districts of the Eastwell Bombay Presidency, which were incorporated in Mysore in 1956. Archives of other European powers. The archives related to the Portuguese preserved in Goa, mainly belonging to the period from 1700 to 1900, are valuable for the history of Portuguese possessions in India. Dutch records of Cochin and Malabar are in the Madras Record Office and those of Chinsura in the State Archives of West Bengal. The archives of the Danish possessions were also transferred to Copenhagen when the Danes sold Tranquebar and Serampore to the English East India Company in 1845. The remaining Danish records, mainly relating to Tranquebar, are now housed in the Madras Record Office. Judicial records. Housed in the Madras Record Office, the archives of the Mayor's Court at Fort St. George, beginning from AD 1689, are the earliest available judicial archives. Similarly, the records of the Mayor's Court at Bombay, established in 1728, are available in the Maharashtra Secretariat Record Office, which also has the custody of the archives of the Bombay Records Court and the Supreme Court. The record contains copies of wills, probates, and letters of administration, which are useful for studies as well as investigation. Published archives. The most significant archival publications are the parliamentary papers. The reports of the parliamentary select committees, various royal commissions constituted on specific subjects like education, civil reforms and famines, and the parliamentary debates on the Indian Empire are indispensable. Private archives. Private archives comprise papers and documents of individuals and families. These are housed in the Nehru Memorial Museum and Library in New Delhi. The archives of banks, business houses, and chambers of commerce are extremely helpful in the study of economic changes. Foreign repositories. In England, the Indian Office Records, London, and the records kept in the British Museum are very valuable. The India Office Records possesses various important documents, the minutes of the courts of directors and the General Court of the East India Company and various committees constituted from time to time, the minutes and correspondence of the Board of Control or the Board of Commissioners. The British Museum possesses collections of papers of British viceroys. Apart from the archives of the European nations, the archives preserved in Pakistan are of utmost importance. The West Pakistan Record Office, Lahore, Record Office, Peshawar, records available in Sindh, etc. give information about the regional history of the Indian subcontinent. Biographies, memoir, and travel accounts. Many travelers, traders, missionaries, and civil servants have left accounts of their experiences and their impressions of various parts of India. Some of the famous British travelers who wrote travel accounts were George Forster, Benjamin Hayne, James Burns, C.J.C. Davidson, and John Butler. Famous non-British travelers who wrote about India include Victor Jacquemont, Baron Charles, William Moorcroft. These are reliable sources for constructing the history of modern India, especially as they supplement the official papers. Newspapers and journals. Newspapers and journals form an important and authentic source of information for the construction of the history of modern India. In 1780, James Augustus Hickey published the first newspaper in India entitled The Bengal Gazette or Calcutta General Advisor. Interestingly, nearly one-third of the founding fathers of the Indian National Congress in 1885 were journalists. Some of their publications were The Hindu and Swadesh Mitram under the editorship of G. Subramania Iyer, Kesari and Maharatha under Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Bengali under Surendranath Banerjee, Sudarak under Gopal Krishna Gokhale, and Voice of India under Dadabhai Nauroji. Indian nationalists and revolutionaries living abroad published newspapers and journals including Indian Sociologist, Bande Mataram, Talwar, Ghadar to infuse a feeling of nationalism among Indians living abroad. From the 1920s onwards, newspapers tracked the major events during the freedom struggle. Oral evidence. Oral history refers to the construction of history with the help of non-written sources, for instance, personal reminiscence. However, many historians remain skeptical of the veracity of oral history. Creative literature. The first important writer of that period was the Bengali novelist Bankim Chandra Chatterjee. His novels are mostly historical, the best known among them being Anand Math, noted for his powerful lyrics, Vande Mataram and depiction of the Sannyasi revolt. Icharam Suryaram Desai was a fine scholar of medieval Gujarati literary history. His first novel, Hind Anya Britannia, was one of the earliest Indian novels with political overtones. G.V. Krishna Rao's Kilu Bomalu in Telugu was concerned with the moral aspects and behavior of the rural people. Y.K. Muhammad Bashir was one of the eminent writers in Malayalam, whose famous novel Balyakala Sakhi was a tragic tale of love. Similarly, Thagazhi Shivashankara Pillai became prominent for his two extremely well-written works in Malayalam, Thottiyude Magan and Chemmeen. Despite having different educational backgrounds and social outlooks, all these writers shared a strong sense of realism and deep interest in the life of the marginalized and oppressed sections of the society. Paintings. The company paintings, also referred as Parnakalam, emerged under the patronage of the East India Company. Trades, festivals, dances, and the attire of people are visible in these works. The pictorial images produced by the British and Indians includes paintings, pencil drawings, etchings, posters, cartoons, and bizarre prints are especially important records of the Great Revolt of 1857. Relief of Lucknow, painted by Thomas Johns Barker in 1859, is another example. Another painting of this period include In Memoriam by Joseph Noel Paton, recorded in painting 2 years of the revolt of 1857. Calicut painting that came to the fore in Calcutta in the 19th century depicted not only mythological figures but also ordinary people engaged in their everyday lives. These paintings made a comment on social evils of the time. A new art movement emerged which received its primary stimulus from the growing nationalism in India. Artists like Nandalal Bose and Raja Ravi Verma were representatives of this new trend. In the rise of the Bengal school led by Abhindranath Tagore, E.B. Havell, and Ananda Kentish Kumaraswamy played a vital role. Though many of the paintings of this new trend primarily focused on themes of Indian mythology and cultural heritage, they are important sources for studying the modern art movement in India and for the art historians. Hence, with this, we come to an end with chapter 1, that is Sources for the History of Modern India. Please do like, share and comment to my channel. Thank you.